My name is Frank Slane. I'm 91 years old on January the 7th this year. And I served in Europe during World War II, but I started out as a flight instructor in Victoria, Texas, flying T-6s. We called them AT-6s at the time. And I was an instrument instructor. Then I got antsy and volunteered to get out of South Texas and get into combat. I'd checked out in the P-40 and I kind of identified with the Flying Tigers. I was going to really get with them. But they sent me to Lubbock and I checked out in a CG-4A glider as a glider pilot, so I had another set of wings. Then they sent me overseas. They didn't have any idea what to do with me when I got there, but I had two sets of wings and one of them was for airplanes. So they put me in a C-47 and troop carrier. And I flew that until March the 24th, 1945, and then found out that I was going to get to fly a glider into the invasion of the Rhineland as a glider pilot with 9 troops and 1,500 pounds of ammunition and a machine gun aboard. So after that couple of days in combat, I came back and started flying C-47s again, just like nothing had happened. After the war, I stayed in Europe as in the Army of Occupation, flying for the European Air Transport Service as a C-47 pilot. Then when I came home, I came back and I went back to college. Got a degree in education, taught school for 3 years. Decided that there wasn't too much money in school teaching, so I came to Tulsa and got back into aviation. I flew for Spartan for 5 years as a test pilot on a P-51 and ground school instructor. Then I got a permanent job with the Air National Guard as a flying training supervisor. So I spent the rest of my career in the Guard. We started out, we had P-51s, then we had F-80s, F-86Ds, C-97, 124s, and then we changed back to fighters when I was 49 years old in F-100s. So I flew an F-100 for the last 200 hours of my career, and I've been retired for 40 years. And I've devoted most of my time to volunteering, Meals on Wheels, retired and senior volunteer service, church, and mostly Toastmasters. I've been in as many as 7 Toastmasters clubs, but I'm down to 3 now. I've served in all the offices in the club in the district, been district governor, had the privilege of serving on the International Board of Directors, and I'm kind of the permanent treasurer of a couple of clubs. So we don't have to change the signature card every year. Well, I was born in southwest Missouri near Pierce City and grew up around Joplin. We just had to go wherever my dad had a job, because during the Depression, jobs didn't last very long. And he was a diesel engine mechanic operating in the mills. So we moved around from Joplin to Nevada to Baxter Springs and back to Joplin and back to Baxter Springs. So I actually went to high school and college in Kansas. I graduated from Baxter Springs High School in 1941 and went to Pittsburgh State now, but it was Kansas State Teachers College when I went there. So I graduated from there. I was a freshman in college when I called up to active duty and in the war. Then I went back and got my degree. Well, I was home for the weekend from college, and Dad and I were sitting there listening to the radio, and all of a sudden they broke in with the news that the Japanese had bombed Pearl Harbor. And it was a real shock. And I thought, ooh, we're in war. So I was still 17 at the time, and then a month later I became 18. I registered for the draft, went back to college, and I didn't get called up. So in November I volunteered, and I decided I didn't want to slog around in the mud, so I got into the Army Air Corps as a cadet. Well, then it was February of 1943 before I got called up. But then it was quite an experience. We had one of the experiences we had after basic training, which was difficult. We got sent to college training detachment because there was no room to get into the pilot program right at that time in San Antonio. So they sent us to a girls' college up in Waukesha, Wisconsin. And that was a nice experience because the people up there were so friendly, and they'd invite us into their homes. We had steaks and potatoes, butter, cheese. I mean, it wasn't Army. It was fun. So I started out there, and then I went to San Antonio and got into the program. Actually, I did primary training right here in Oklahoma, in Yukon, Oklahoma, in a PT-19. Then I went to Enid, and it was the Enid Army Airfield at that time, and BT-15s in that, then down to Victoria, Texas, in the AT-6 to graduate. So I graduated March of 1944, and in November was on my way to Europe. I got there just before, 2 weeks before the Battle of the Bulge. Okay, the object was to transport as many people as possible, as much equipment as possible, into a war zone rapidly. So the CG-4A you could carry 13 fully equipped troops, or 4,000 pounds of cargo, or any combination of the two. And as I said, we had 9 troops and 1,500 pounds of ammunition and a machine gun in ours. It was the difference between whether they towed, a C-47 towed 1 glider or 2 gliders. But to get more gliders into the combat zone, we had double tow. And that meant that this C-47 is pulling 2 gliders off of the ground and through the air and into the combat zone on one rope was 300 feet, one was 320. When you got there, you were going in about 400 feet, which was very close to the artillery. And when you cut off, there's no place to go but down, because it won't go up, it just goes down. So we landed and deployed our troops, and they got, you're surrounded to start with, so they were expanding the lines. Then you're relying on the Army to link up with you to help relieve things and take over. Well, the glider pilots were to guard the command post. So we went to the command post and dug foxholes. And with so much noise, you can't sleep or anything, so you just keep digging. I dug the deepest foxhole in Germany, I think. Yeah. When we were going in, the flak got to be awfully thick. There's little puffs of black smoke every place, and it's almost total as far as the air was concerned, almost at our level. And when the tow ship ahead of us got shot down, it went down in flames, and I really got scared. I wanted to be back in South Texas, but I figured, well, there's nothing I can do about this, so I might as well just forget about it. Put my life in the hands of God, and if He wants to take me, that's the way it's going to be. But I didn't get a scratch. I dodged a lot of bullets, but I didn't get a scratch from that thing, and it worked out very well. You know, it's really a great memory to think that you were there and combat was still going on. We were driving toward Berlin, and then all of a sudden the war's over. What a relief. But then you think, ooh, am I going to have to go to the Pacific? That wasn't a good thought, but I would have gone because I was in the service and that was what I was supposed to do, go wherever Uncle Sam sent me. So, but it was a relief to go into the Army of Occupation. I was still serving, but that was quite a thing. Well, you know, family gives you a responsibility that you have to accept. You don't just have it and go off and do stuff. Now, my first marriage, my wife left, but I guess she just couldn't handle military experience where I was gone so much. So I don't blame her for that. But I had the boys, and then when I married my second wife, she had 3 boys, so we had 5 altogether. And it was, you know, you try to set an example to show them how they should behave and what they should believe. I didn't preach to them. And I didn't tell them that they had to do this or had to do that. I'd let them make some choices, but I guided them through those choices so that they were correct. My kids have done very well, but none of them took up flying. So family is important. I actually considered retiring in Tucson, Arizona because I liked it out there. There was so much to do and see, and it's about the size of Tulsa. But then I got to thinking, that doesn't make sense. You need to retire near your support group because you're going to need them. And my biggest support group has been Toastmasters. And I guess my second biggest would be the church. Our church kind of dwindled and went away, but I helped with the preacher and substituted for him from time to time when he was on vacation or sick. But it's important to have people who will listen to you when you need to talk, will cry with you when you need to cry, laugh when you need to laugh, and just be there for you, and you be there for them. That's important. And family is good for that, but not totally sufficient in that area. You just kind of expect it from family. Well, I've gone through a period of time when I didn't think they appreciated what had been done for them, for the privileges they reaped from the actions of World War II and other service. It was difficult to accept the way the veterans of Vietnam were greeted when they came home. I had my oldest stepson served over there 2 times, and you know, I didn't agree with the war, but we were in it. So you serve. You don't resist. You don't make a big flap about it. But I thought the people should have appreciated the individuals, even if they disagreed with the war. I think now, I've experienced some really gratifying experiences with the new generation. I haven't so many of them come up and thank me for my service and show some appreciation. I don't know. I don't know how they'd feel if they were called up, but apparently they're they're a little bit more patriotic than the ones in the 60s and 70s. Well, I think, first of all, be honest. Not only honest with everyone else, but honest with yourself. And don't be discouraged with things. Just go on with what you're doing and do the best you can at it. Love the country, even if the country's wrong. It's our country. And I won't give it up. I've been all over the world and I know what other countries are like. And this is the best. But I think they need to think in terms of service. Service to the country, service to mankind, service to the community. Give something back. You get so much out of life. We're so fortunate to be here.